hi there, on a little walk. So I will keep looking down at the floor because I don't want to end up on my bottom while I'm talking to you. I mean, that would be probably funny. It'd probably end up as a viral video, wouldn't it, if that actually happened? So I wanted to share something today that came up in a conversation with a client recently. In fact, it doesn't not just this particular client, it comes up in conversation with my clients all the time. And that's sort of around, should I be still doing my other therapy? Now, I'm not, very sunny today, marvellous. I'm not here to say don't be involved in endlessly talking about yourself and doing that kind of therapy. That's not my job. However, I just wanted to kind of explain from my perspective what I found the difference to be for me in this conversation. So before I came across the inside out understanding, which is what I share in all my content, things I talk about, I'm going to just stop and talk here in front of a bush because I can't see because of the sun, which is lovely. Yeah, so before I came across this understanding, one of the key things that was going on in my life was that I was spending a lot of time talking about the problems of Claire. You know, what's kind of wrong with Claire, what needs doing about Claire, how does she need fixing, all that kind of thing. And I feel like that was like looking over here and just talking about Claire and talking about the person I think Claire is and what's wrong with her and what do I need to do about her. So there's like this sense of a self called Claire that I'm trying to fix. And I did all sorts of things to do that. I did a lot of self-development stuff. I did a lot of work on myself, as you might call it. A lot of things like affirmations and stuff like that. So it's a bit bumpy underfoot here, so bear with me. And all sorts of things like that. So that's what I was doing. And so I was sort of over this side, let's say I'm over here, and the concept of me and the concept of what's wrong with me just seemed to get bigger and bigger. I became, I guess, very, very self-conscious. And I remember once Michael Neal saying something about a sort of equation that when we're judgmentally looking at ourselves, we become very, very self-conscious. And so we just notice more and more what's wrong with us. So that's what I was doing for a long time. And then when I came across the Inside Out Understanding in early 2020, it felt like almost a turn of attention into this place of more non-judgmental awareness, like really looking at how is the human experience created, what's that all about, how does it work. And I think for me it was engaging, the conversation, it was interesting. It was something I'd never heard before, and I was very, very curious about it, about, you know, what are these people saying? They're saying that my experience is created from the inside out. What's that all about? How do I see more about that? And just got really interested in it. Now, the advantage for me at that time was that we were in the middle of a lockdown, so I had a lot of time to look at this understanding and explore it, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I think that's one of the things that I would say was so different. When I'd been in counselling and doing inner child work and all that kind of thing, I did not enjoy it one bit. It was awful. I would spend most of my sessions crying, like, you know, big, snotty, horrible crying. Really unpleasant, really horrible, exhausting. I would come out of counselling and have to go to bed because I would be just so depleted and so exhausted. And for me, that's because, particularly when we're talking about the past, what we're doing is we're just thinking about horrible things that happened to us in the past. And of course, we feel that in the body. We feel the discomfort of that kind of thinking. And it's tiring. It's really tiring. So, and it keeps taking us back into those awful places. I just don't see the benefit of that really these days. So then this conversation over here about the human experience and how it works and everything almost meant that I kind of turned my back on the Claire that I thought was a problem and focused on human experience and how that works and, you know, what's that all about. Excuse me. I'm being completely me here, clearly, wiping my nose and everything. I'm being a hot, sweaty mess as well. Hope you're enjoying that, especially if you're a hot, sweaty mess a lot of the time. Right now, you can probably relate. So yeah, there was this focus on something else other than me. And what I noticed was that sort of every so often I would just think, oh, I'm seeing my experience unfolding. Like I would start to really see it. Like I would sort of feel like I was in this place of just awareness, just, oh, there's a thing that Claire, and look at me, I'm kind of angry or I'm upset or I'm doing something in a particular way or behaving in a particular way or whatever. And I would just notice, first of all, I would notice there was an awareness of that. And perhaps an awareness of the old stuff that I was usually doing, but more from this place of awareness rather than from this place of judgment. And then gradually, I would just notice every so often, oh, I don't do that like that normally. I'm doing it differently today. Isn't that interesting? And gradually that's what happened. That's how life changed for me. I just want to share with you this beautiful view. Hard to share a view really like this, but it's hard to believe that I am literally 20 minutes by car from the centre of Leeds. And yeah, I'm very lucky to have this on my doorstep. I just thought I'd share that with you. So the transformation came really from the shift in perspective, and I will be talking about that in another video in more detail, I think, is what do I mean by a perspective shift? Because that is how these huge transformations happened for me. And there was just some very significant moments when I just saw things in a completely different way. And, you know, like, so I'd be in a reactive place to something that I usually, you know, I'd feel some anger, some frustration. Normally there would be a reaction from that. And, you know, that reaction just didn't make sense anymore and it fell away. Like last night I noticed, I was tidying up in the kitchen and my fiance, after I'd finished tidying, he was only in the lounge so he could hear me tidying up. I know he could. And when I'd just about finished tidying up, he said, "Can I do anything to help, darling?" And I could feel the sulky, horrible feeling in my body. I know it's reminiscent of a previous relationship. I don't need to go into the past of that, but I just kind of get a sense of it. And yeah, and I noticed it. And I allowed myself to just be with that feeling of, I don't know, frustration or whatever it was. It doesn't really matter. But for me, that going into the body was really important at that moment, just to be with that. So that, I hope, kind of where I'm pointing to here is that with many things that we're encouraged to do to fix ourselves, very much in inverted commas, there's this sense of there's a broken me who needs fixing, and if I focus enough on what's wrong with me, somehow it'll go away. But that is literally like getting a tin of kerosene and chucking it on a fire repeatedly and hoping that the fire's going to go out. It just doesn't work that way, really. And I wonder if you've noticed that, if you've noticed that you've been after some kind of therapeutic process, perhaps just by yourself or with somebody, and you just keep going into the same things over and over again, and that really they're just not going anywhere, and you're just not feeling better. And the fun thing about this conversation, the inside out conversation, is that A, it's fun and it's interesting and it's really like, wow, is this it's so cool. It's really, really interesting. And I love it. So if you get into a conversation with me about it, I'll be very enthusiastic because I do love it. And then every so often something changes. Like recently, I had spent years and years. This is a good one actually. I'll share this before the end of the video. But I spent years and years trying to sort my weight out. I think I first was aware of being overweight when I was about 9, so pretty young really. And I would do, I mean, back in the day, we're talking like the 70s, 80s now, I had an exercise tape. I don't mean a videotape, I mean an actual cassette. But if you're watching this video and you're from Gen X, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I had this, it was Felicity Kendall, if anybody remembers her, and she did this exercise thing on a tape. And I used to do it in the front room when I was a kid. I was probably about 9 when I was doing that. So definitely had some awareness of weight problems. Anyway, I did Slimming World, I did all sorts of things. And then I did quite a bit of like mindset work about weight and blah, blah, blah. On and on and on. And then recently, without really seeming to need to, well, I didn't do anything. I just noticed this desire to do a bit more moving, like this lovely walk today. And I've now got this little exercise thing that's just right for me. It's 15 to 20 minutes a day, does different body parts every day, it's perfect. Do that in the morning, walk 5,000 steps a day, which takes me about 50 minutes, although maybe a bit longer today because I'm walking slower and making a video, but I'm going to make this part of my day really, is walking, sharing something with you, making a little video. Anyway, so yeah, it just, and my relationship with food, like that's changed so much. Like I've been trying to make myself eat low carb for ages. Epic fail, time and time again. Then suddenly, it just made sense. And I don't feel like I'm looking back at all. It's really interesting. So, come on a journey into this conversation. If you like my videos and and you like my content, then stay with me on it. But if find somebody whose 3 principles, non-duality, talks about being inside out, talks about who you truly are underneath all your thoughts and feelings, doesn't want to go talking about the past with you endlessly. Like, find somebody and get into this conversation, because it is the most transformational thing I've ever experienced. So I just wanted to share that idea of no longer looking at yourself and making yourself into a massive, ugly, horrible thing psychologically, and coming over here and having a conversation about reality and the difference that can make. So that's me for today. Hope you've heard all of that, despite me walking and bobbing up and down and breathing heavily. But I'm being authentically me now, putting this out into the world. So take care, lots of love, thank you for watching.